Well, hello there and welcome back. This is Maximus McCullough, your host, and we're talking about absolute beginners web development course. Now, I got a couple questions that from the last course. The first question the person asked, I got an icon of my web browser when I saved the file. I did not see one on the last tutorial. And what they're referring to is this little thing right here. See this icon? I'm on a Linux system and I could make an icon for that. And you probably got, Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer, a little icon like that, like you see over here, probably down here, and it created a shortcut for you. But I don't have my computer set up like that because it's not important to me. But that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong. That's totally normal. The next question was, can we use more than one H2 tag on that page? And so let's go ahead and open this up, and so I can discuss what's going on here. So I'm just going to open with, now this is the same thing you guys are going to have to do, because if I double click on that, it's just going to open up in my Google Chrome. But now I'm going to say open with when I right click, and I'm just going to hit gedit, and then there's my file again. Okay, then I could double click it again, and of course it's going to bring up the browser window. So let me answer this question here. As far as the H2 goes, you can use it where it makes sense down the page. Like we might have used the H2 right here, and that's fine. H3, if we use an H3 or something of that nature, it usually relates to what was ever in H2. Okay, but if you're talking about something that, I try to illustrate it this way. If you're talking about women's clothes, okay, the first one would be, women's shoes, right? And then maybe we have a paragraph talking about the comfort of women's shoes. And then now maybe we're going to talk about the color of the shoes. So that would be an H3 tag. So that would be, the color of shoes would be an H3. And then in the paragraph, we'd be talking about the colors. But now let's start talking about women's pants. Well, now then we're back into H2. All right? H2. Okay. And that's how that goes. Just like an article, you have to apply the same rules that you would whenever you were writing literature in school. Okay? All right, let me go ahead and put everything back the way it was. But yeah, the answer is you can use the H2 tag as many times as you want. The one thing, though, that I will point out, you only want to use one H1 tag. Never use more than one H1 tag. And whatever's in that H1 tag has to be in the title tag, like we were talking about in the last lesson. Okay? So you only want to use one H1 tag. And the reason why is whenever the bots, the spiders, come and crawl your website, if you have any more than one H1 tag, then they're going to have a hard time figuring out what the page is about and what to index you for. Okay? So if you got something totally different that you want to talk about, then you need to create a totally different website. Like if we were talking about women's clothes, and then we want to talk about Chevy Silverados, well, that really doesn't belong on this web page. We would have to create a different web page if we wanted to talk about Chevy trucks. Okay. Are you going to cover embedding videos? Yes, we will cover embedding videos. In fact, we'll do that in this lesson. But in the last lesson, I told you guys that whenever I come back, we're going to start embedding images. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's fun. It's just basically it's just another tag. So let's go down to our bare bones HTML document. And you guys will be glad to know that I put that on the website for you. Let me go ahead and show it to you. In fact, we'll put it right here. I'll put it as another tab. Now what I'm doing here is I'm dragging the mouse so that then I have two tabs I could go back and forth. And let me refresh the page because I just did it. Okay. So there's our bare bones HTML, and this right here, underneath this heading, bare bones HTML. And if you click this little link right here, and you copy that whole thing, you just copy it like that. And then whenever you bring up your document, you can hit Control A and Control V as in Victor, and we're back to our bare bones HTML document. Okay. Now let's go ahead and so for repetition, we'll commit to memory. Let's go ahead and put our title tag in here, T-I-T-L-E, and then our closing title tag, all right? And let's say that this one is going to be embedding images in HTML, okay? And that's what we're going to do. Now let me go ahead and give us a space to work with here. The image tag is very common. It's, a less than signed IMG, short for image, okay? Now the image is another file that resides on the server. Now this could be your server, it could be somebody else's server, it doesn't matter, but that's source, SRC, okay? It looks like that. And then we use the equal sign, a quote, and then another quote, all right? And then we use our forward slash and our greater than sign, okay? So that is the whole structure of an image tag right here. Now right in here, this is where we'll put the URL to the image, okay? Now let me show you a neat little trick. Let's say that we wanted to use this image right here, okay, this logo. If I right click in my Google Chrome browser, and your browser has something very similar, you see where it says copy image address? So let's copy that. And then I'm going to bring up another tab, and I'm going to hit paste and go. And now you can see that this particular URL or file name, okay, this URL is pointing to this file only because that's all the internet is. It's a bunch of files and folders just like you have on your desktop, okay, and you just have to point it to the right one. All right, so let's go ahead and right click and paste that in there, okay. Notice I put it in between the two quotes. All right, now let's go ahead and save our HTML document, and let's go ahead and refresh our index.html, and now we can see our image is in there, okay. So that's, if you can see what's going on here, this is going out to a server somewhere and pulling in a file, and we can put as many image tags as we want to in there. All right, now let's talk about alternate text, okay, alternate text on images. So for example, if I was in Google Images, let's go there. And we'll load it up here. And let me go ahead and we will type in A1 Website Pro logo. Okay? And we'll hit enter. Now notice this was the first image on the page, the A1 Website Pro logo. Well, how did Google know that? How did it know that this is associated with that? Okay, well there's a couple different methods, but the main one is the alt text. Now what we see, we have logo 200 is the file name, okay, but what we want to do is we want to type in, put a space, ALT equals, and then we could put A1 logo, okay, or something like that. And let me show you what that looks like if we hit save. If we go back to the page now, this has something invisible. Can't see it unless you right click, and if you right click and hit view page source. But now this has an alternate text. And there are some browsers out there that still don't load images, and whether they be machines or sometimes we have Opera browsers. We have people out there on the internet, they're not interested in looking at images because it takes too long for them to load, or they have a slow connection, or so on and so forth. But it does take into consideration what this alternate text says, okay? And the alt equals quote, and then whatever it is, you can make it as long or as short as you want. I had another question here too that I'd like to go over with you. Whenever we were doing the H2 tags, H1 tags, so you always start out with an H1 tag, okay? So you want to always start out with that. And we'll go ahead and grab our title tag because our H1 tag should resemble whatever's in our title. We'll have a paragraph tag. Okay, these are, how about this? This is all about images, okay? Now somebody asked me, what if we went like this and we put all this space in here? And, we kind of made it look messy, like that. What would happen? Well, let's save it, and I'll tell you what's going on here. Now, if we reload our code, we see we have all those spaces in our code. But now if we reload the web page, it's going to be the same thing no matter what. Now, whenever a computer reads a file, it starts at the top, goes to the bottom, and reads left to right. Okay? If there's spaces in there, it just ignores the spaces. All right? But here's a little thing to keep in mind. It does take the computer a little bit longer to read each space, okay? And that's why sometimes you'll hear about optimizing HTML or optimizing CSS or PHP. These are all languages that we'll be learning about in these courses. But at the same time, you want to tighten that up. You don't want there to be a bunch of spaces. You want to use them. Whenever you're working in something, it's okay to make a couple spaces, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. I forgot about that question. Okay, so anyway, getting back to the image tag. Okay, we see that we have our image here, all right? But now maybe our image is too big, or maybe it's too small, or maybe we want it to be just a little bit smaller, okay? How can we handle something like that? How can we resize this image? Well, we could do that with another with another attribute. Like we have the attribute of alt equals A1 logo. Okay, we can also put a title on the image, and we could say A1 website pro logo. Okay, but another thing that we can do is we could put a width, width, and then equals, and let's say 100 pixels. Just like that. Or let's go drastic. Let's go 50 pixels. Okay? And then let's save this document. Let's reload it. And now you can see the image is a lot smaller. Okay? That's how you'll do that. It's with the width tag, 50 pixels. Now let's go the other opposite direction. Let's say 500 pixels. What do you think that's going to do to this image here? Well, let's go see. If we refresh, we could see that now it's blowing that image up, and you see it's starting to pixelate because the image wasn't intended to be that big at its creation. So this is a web optimized image, and it's supposed to be a certain size. So you can do that, but I wouldn't go drastic, okay? Another attribute you can give an image is the height, H-E-I-G-T-H, okay? And let's make the height, let's make it 22 pixels, okay? Let's go ahead and save this document, reload our web browser, and can you imagine what's going to happen before I do? Nothing happened. Is it because I misspelled height, H-E-I-G-H-T? Yes, that would be one of the reasons. Okay, very good. Now you see here we have a height of 22 pixels but a width of 500. Okay, so you can manipulate images within the image tag. All right. There's something else that I'd like to talk to you about, and you can also give something an ID. Okay, an ID equals, this is the way it always is. It's whenever you're putting IDs or classes or attributes within images or even any tag at all, you start out with whatever it is, and I'm just going to use X's, or you know what, we'll use foo. Okay, foo equals quote quote, and inside the quote, whatever you're doing. Okay, so this is the syntax for these attributes that we put in here. It's whatever the attribute is equals quote whatever it is, end quote. Okay, and that's how you do over and over and over again. Now there's literally thousands of them, thousands of different attributes and elements and things that you can put in. But an ID is the same thing. So if we give this an ID of foo, all right, let's save this. And I want you to start getting into that habit of making these IDs. In fact, you want to make it something that makes sense. So we'll just call this logo, okay, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the logo. And whenever we go out to our browser and reload the logo, nothing happens here. But whenever we start getting into CSS and JavaScript, you want to already be in the habit of giving everything an ID and knowing what you named them, because we're going to be working with that down the road here. Okay? So titles are always good. If you give an image a title, you notice when I hover over it, you can see it pop up there, A1 Website Pro logo. Okay? If you stop the video, you can see it there. All right, so that's what the title does for it. But the main thing is with images, you want to have this alt tag in there. Titles, optional. Okay? And by that, Google will know how to index you in the other search engines. Okay? So let's talk about iframes. And whenever I was asked the question about video embedding, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be embedding an iframe. And it's kind of like embedding this image. Only the iframe has a regular closing tag, like the body tag, like the P tag, and the H1 tag. The image, that's the closing tag. You notice the / and the greater than sign? So that's that closing tag for that specific element. So let's go ahead and go to YouTube for a second. And we'll go ahead and just click on our link here. And we'll grab the last video, maybe the last video that I was talking about, Absolute Beginner Course in Web Development. When that video loads up, I'm just going to hit pause so it doesn't go anywhere. And see this little share button down here? If I open that share button up, I'll get a link here, but this embed, you see that embed? If I grab that embed and I click once in here, well, usually if I click once, but if you highlight the whole thing, got to highlight the whole thing like that, right click and copy. Then we're going to come back here on line 9, we're going to right click and paste. Now, there's a couple things here that you're probably not familiar with, and I'm going to take them out. But we're going to be getting into the divs and the styles and the positions later. We're going to take out the div tags because that's coming up in the next lesson. All right. So now we have an iframe. Now notice the source equals, very similar to the image. Source equals, right? And then it's going in and it's getting a file. Okay, it's given it a width equals, and then the quotes. Notice the height equals, and then the quotes. Very similar to the way we talked about with images. Now here's a new one. Frame border equals 0. Okay, and now this style, we're going to take it out because I am going to go over that with you in detail. Now this is a YouTube allow full screen attribute. So that's just something that YouTube gives you. That means whenever you're playing a video, like when you're on A1 Website Pro playing the video, you'll be able to click this little button for full screen. Okay? All right. So that's the way that works. So we'll close that out. But let's go back here, and then I'm going to save this, save file, and we're going to reload it in our browser here. You'll see what happens. Give it a second. See, now we have a video embedded right beside our image here. And that's how you embed images and you embed videos in your HTML documents. And so here we go, down our little road or little path through the woods, and maybe we've taken a couple more steps. And I hope I'm going slow enough for you. If you need to slow down a little bit, don't hesitate to make a comment, or if you have some more questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to answer any questions as long as it's related to the lessons as we go. This is Max with A1 Website Pro. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.